Hey everybody, and welcome to OVW No Holds Barred, the show taking you behind the scenes on all things Ohio Valley Wrestling. Today, it's Zoe time, a three-time OVW Television Championship winner, a multiple-time tag team champion, the current OVW United States champion. Oh, and he brought it. I love that. I love that. We've got an unstoppable force here with us today in OVW and a surprising background as well as a mental health professional. So can't wait to find out about that. But first, hey, Big Zo, thank you for joining us. Oh, wow, you got the book too. Everything's in distance, region distance.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I'm happy to be here. Yeah, it's if you stay prepared, you don't have to get prepared, right?
absolutely, absolutely. So Zo, I've got to say, we've heard a lot of stories on this podcast up to now about wrestlers traveling from all over the US to get to OVW. But am I right in saying you actually grew up in Louisville?
Yep, born and raised, man. My
Amazing.
my commute's about 20 minutes down the road. So like when I see some of these guys and I hear about some of these guys, like Manny, for instance, he was coming to or from Texas like every week. I'm like, that's wild, man. So like it's definitely a privilege to just be able to hop in the car, just go down the street to do it. And I grew up on OVW, so it's wild.
That's amazing. Yeah, I was just talking to Frey the Slayer, who was telling me she came from Alaska
Alaska, yeah.
to get there. I couldn't even think of something so challenging. But yeah, if it's on your doorstep, that's perfect. So,
No
um,
doubt.
do you remember the first time you thought you want to be in the ring if you grew up in OVW, actually watching the show?
Uh, I mean, I guess I grew up I don't know that it was necessarily OVW in of itself that made me wanna get in the ring, but definitely once I found out that there was OVW in my backyard, that I
Right.
definitely wanted to get in there, but I'd say that as far as wanting to get into wrestling in general, um, I mean, as a kid growing up, you always see it, like little kid, you're interested like 3, 4, 5 or whatever. But as far as it becoming something that seemed like it was tangible that I actually could possibly do, definitely like my early teenage years. So I'd say probably when I didn't have cable growing up. So I didn't really have access to like the Monday Night Wars initially. So I'd have to go to my buddy's house right next door.
Uh,
But when I grew up and I started watching like the NWO, seeing Kevin Nash and them, so I was probably, I guess, middle school, so probably about 6th, 7th grade. And I was like, I want to do that. So fast forward just a couple years, I ended up starting to do some backyard wrestling. We were on public access television, which is basically like today's equivalent of the internet.
right.
Uh,
Yeah.
and we were just out there doing it, man. So I'd say, yeah, probably when I was a teenager is when I got kind of serious about it, and I started doing it.
It's an interesting dynamic. Would you say, from being local, does that help with a following? Do you have a good connection with the people there? Because I can only imagine, you're probably a little bit of an inspiring case for others in the community, and perhaps everyone's watching your progress with great interest, being the local boy, right?
I think so. I never really thought too much about the fact that I'm from Louisville in that aspect. I definitely have a good connection with the crowd. I don't know how much of that is just me and charisma versus like geography, But I guess there have been news stories on like when I was a middle school counselor, like middle school counselor by day, wrestler by night. So I mean, I guess people kind of sort of are privy to my like my shoot job, my 9 to 5s, and like the things I do in the community. So yeah, I think that probably does play an impact. I never really thought much about it, but surely it's got to help, right? Being on the local news and then being in the local wrestling.
I mean, it's very interesting actually because it's very relatable to myself. So when I first was in the wrestling business over here, um, I do an instructor role now, but I was previously a lecturer and a teacher. But
Oh man.
a lot of that helped me build obviously relations with the youth, Um, but it was going, ultimately being the Superman, if you like, from doing the normal person life to obviously the fantasy life and the transition, and people are always really engaged in that story, if you were. And I imagine you can relate to that. And how does that play a role for you in day to day and every week? Because I imagine you've got quite a busy schedule, right?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, honestly, it's the reason why I was about 2 minutes late getting on here because I get off from work at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I know it's late where you guys are across the pond. Although I'm off from work, I'm still in my office. As you can see behind me, there goes my credentials, my doctorate back there, and like this is my office. Um, But I go to my car because I'm like, I need to get another cup of coffee because I'm tired. I've been working all day. And I go to my car and I go to get the title. So you can't just go to a place of employment walking around with a 16-pound professional wrestling belt and not have people stop you every 5 seconds like, hey, you wrestle? Where'd you get that from? Because everybody on my team, they know, but we have some people, like, it's a big building. Some people are like, hey, where is that at? When does that come on? And so I'm like, all right, yeah, but I actually have to get to an interview to talk to them about it, like, while you're interviewing me here. So yeah,
You've had
that
good
definitely
practice
plays a role.
before.
Yeah, man. So just trying to make it to get the coffee, to get to the restroom, to get the belt, and then make it to you guys on time. And that's why Lewis is kind of sitting in the room by himself because for first 2 minutes, I was trying to make it from the restroom to make it back from having talked to everybody else.
Hey, you know what though? I know that it's one thing to have certificates on the wall. You've got to be the only guy with a US title in the office, right? That's pretty much
That's fair. That's fair.
yeah,
Today, I mean, I guess, if the psychiatrist wants to pin me and take me for, yeah, I guess they could, it'd be an unsanctioned match, but
for sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think it definitely stands out a little bit. It's a little different.
hundred
Tell us a little
percent.
bit about the history about the title. Who did you win it from? What was the match? What's been going down? What's recent in the storyline for you at OVW?
All right. So this here title, I am the second ever United States champion in Ohio Valley Wrestling since the inception of this title. The very first champion was Eric Surge, and actually what happened was initially we had what's called the national championship. So I'd say probably about, don't quote me on this directly, but I'd say probably about 2, 3 years ago, we came out with the national championship. There's always been for years and years, like over 20 years, we had the OVW heavyweight championship, which has kind of been the grand championship of OVW. And then we said, let's make, I didn't say this is what Al said, but, and then the office said, let's make a title that supersedes the original heavyweight title that's even more prestigious. So that's when the national championship came along. Um, so there's been several guys that have had that. We've had Mr. Spectacular, Jesse Goddard has had it. EC3 has had it. Cash Flow's had it. Omar Amir. Like there's been a lot of guys that have had the national championship. And this is I guess you could say the belt to replace that title. Same title, just different look, different name. But as far as this particular title, belt, whatever you want to call it, I'm the second ever to hold it. So Eric Surge, the first one to hold it. And whenever he first got the national title, going to the story full circle, I was the first person in the ring to come, give him a big hug, literally hoist him up over my shoulders, herald him, celebrate him. Yes, congratulations, congratulations, congratulations. Fast forward, I think he won it in April. He won the national championship in April, and I think probably a week or two after that, they changed it to this title. Since then, I never had an opportunity at it. So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So needless to say, I've been at OVW for the past, it'll be 10 years next May. So about a decade, I say. Uh, I've been kind of relegated to the mid card, curtain jerking, and I've had a lot of titles, I've had a lot of success, but I've never had that opportunity as a singles competitor to have the big championship, whether it's the OVW Heavyweight Championship, which Kyle Hero has now, or the National Championship, now the United States Championship. I never really had very many opportunities at that, so I took matters into my own hand. I came out, I attacked Eric Surge, kind of left the whole song and dance good guy persona and said, let me focus on doing what I got to do to get what I got to get.
100%. Okay, so you've obviously done a lot of work face and heel, and now with the belt, I think I should ask which feels more natural to you, which feels more comfortable? Because I'm not getting heel, I'm not feeling heel right now. Which one do you feel like is your best work?
Uh, hmm. I think I'm naturally a baby face, in the sense that, I mean, I'm a social worker, right?
Right,
Like
right.
literally I got into the field of social work because I care about people. I want to make a difference. I want to make a positive impact. So I genuinely do care about people. So I think that's why I'm able to connect so well as far as being a baby face. However, being a heel isn't that difficult for me either, because either way, it's all about connection. Um, so for me, when I'm doing my heel work, I just channel some of those emotions that I work with other people to try to get rid of
Ah,
as a therapist.
right, right.
I'm trying, but I see it all day, every day. Is you see the anger, you see the frustration, you see the pent up angst and all that kind of stuff. So for me, when I kind of channel those things and think about something that's kind of sort of real, um, whether it's something in my life that's happened, because everybody has anger, everybody has disappointment, everybody has sadness, everybody has grief. So just when you channel that, then you're able to do it. I don't necessarily like to take my pent up anger out on the crowd. Like I'm not that type of heel where it's like screw you, and because that's what you call cheap heat. But
Mhm.
as far as getting in there and being believable, as far as I'm just a vicious, brutal, badass that's just gonna beat up some people, to me that's pretty simple too because my size, I'm over 300 pounds. I'm a large, imposing human being, so being able to put on and be mean is not that difficult either.
Yeah,
So
I
I
can.
think
I
both
was
really.
sorry, I was just gonna vouch for you there because when I was doing my research, I saw like a 40-second promo you cut, and you went 0 to 70 really quickly. You were vicious instantly, and yeah, it's like a different guy right now. So,
Oh yeah.
uh, yeah, no, it's interesting that I've never actually thought of something like that. You do have a unique job that allows you to channel these emotions pretty directly. You don't have to think, what would that be like? You see it on a daily basis.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And you have secondary trauma, right? Like when I'm talking to Vietnam era veterans that are dealing with PTSD because they had to shoot and kill people, or they got shot and killed at, or because their buddies are dead. And like what you see that emotion, and like it's weird to say, but it's a privilege for people to be that vulnerable and open up to you in that regard. Um, but when you see that and you experience that and it's palpable, it's easy to channel it. Um, so I just think about what might those motivations be. So as long as you can figure out the why, the motivation, like I'm not like Big Zoe's not a bad guy. If you think about it, like if you've heard any of my promos, like now as Dr. Zoe, like I'm very cerebral. It's kind of like Hank McCoy and the Beast or whatever. So it's not like I'm just a bad guy. It's like, no, I have reasons and motivations. I don't cheat when I'm in the ring necessarily. I just beat the guy up to the point of him being incapacitated. If he gets a few ribs broken, if his lungs are punctured, I don't know. I just had to do what I had to do to win the championship. It's just casualties of war, right?
Right.
Um,
I don't think I really realized until hearing you speak just then the range of the work you do. I knew there was a book, I knew you did counseling, but just hearing about the different kinds of people that you work with,
Mhm.
it would be fascinating to learn. Obviously, I want to protect people. I don't want to get too deep or anything, but just about the range of different people that you work with. Could I just learn a little bit more about what you actually do?
Sure, sure. So I work at the Department of Veterans Affairs, so the VA. So that means that I work with veterans, right? People that have served in the United States military. So we're talking Army, Marines, Air Force, Navy, Coast Guard. I haven't seen anybody at Space Force yet. It's pretty new. Coast Guard, if I didn't say that. But people that have served in the military.
Right.
So it doesn't necessarily mean like I'm not necessarily a PTSD specialist where I only see people with PTSD all day, every day. So sometimes it might be people with depression, anxiety, or whatever. But it's people that have served our country, but now Uncle Sam owes it to them to pay it back. So that's what I do. Like now, of course, before then, I cut my teeth as a child and family therapist. So I work with kids for the longest. I work with kids as a therapist. I worked as a middle school counselor. That's when one of the news stories came on about me, where dorm dad by day or middle school counselor by day and wrestler by night. So that was kind of a big deal. So everybody in the community is like, "Oh, I know you. I saw you in that news story," and that was kind of wild. So I've done private practice. I do private practice now. So just kind of seeing people that aren't necessarily veterans, not necessarily adults, not just kind of a whole range of different people. Um, but yeah, I've done child protective services. So I've done a little bit of everything.
Really
You'd
amazing.
be a millionaire in wrestling alone, dealing with some of the mentalities within the locker room, right?
Yeah, no
But,
doubt.
but yeah,
That's kind of the retirement plan, I guess. It's kind of like, I'm 40 and I don't think a lot of people realize that. They're like, oh, you got to be in your 20s. Like, no, no. Like
amen.
this is my good shoulder, y'all. I don't know if y'all can hear it, but that's
It
my
hurt,
good shoulder just popping. Um,
it hurts more at our age, right? The
oh yeah.
But jokes aside, it's interesting to hear in terms of your background from that side of your life, because I think sometimes, and maybe you probably agree, that the mental challenges of being a professional wrestler can be extremely difficult, especially when you're balancing life alongside, your dream and your passion, and also ultimately your job. So,
Oh, your family, wife, kids. Yeah.
and this, and obviously you having these experiences makes you extremely, you know, sort of mentally structured and strong. And I can only imagine that they lend itself to help you deal with the wrestling environment. I mean, you got any examples of that? Because I was just recalling what you were feeding back to us about. There was sounded like an element of frustration. You've been in the company for a long period of time. You've obviously earned and waited for a warranted opportunity, and I can imagine that's played its toll because obviously you're passionate as a performer. So anything that you could sort of cross between the two and how it's developed in a wrestling environment?
Sure. I think having been at OVW for a while, like just happened to been there for like a decade plus, right? There's a lot of guys that are younger that, and I don't mean any shade, but their jobs are a lot more flexible. So whereas I have a career, some people have jobs where it's like, oh, I'm gonna take off and I can go travel the world and I can go take a lot of bookings and go to a lot of other places. Whereas I have to literally get 45 days notice to take off from work. So I don't necessarily take as many of the bookings as a lot of people, and I have a wife and a kid, wife and kids, I should say. So a 13-year-old son and a 15-year-old daughter. And my daughter just started wrestling herself,
Oh
as
wow.
far as like, you know, Greco-Roman style amateur wrestling or whatever.
Nice.
So there's times that you want to be there for the family, you want to be there for the kids too. Um, there's a few different ways I can tie this. There's a million ways I can go. So as far as the being at OVW for a while and not necessarily getting the opportunities to be the top guy, I honestly, I tie that into, like, the background story and what would be my motivation, but if you're asking, like, me, Kawan Owens, like, I don't really care that much about it because, like Al says, a lot of times when it comes to, a puzzle, sometimes you might be like, if there's a puzzle and we're putting together a horse, right? Sometimes you might be the mane, you might be the face of the horse, sometimes you might be the tail, sometimes you might be the hoof. It's all about what's needed, and I've had a lot of opportunities. It's kind of like you've named, like, I've been the TV title champion. I've been tag team title. You know, if you look in Wikipedia, longest reigning tag team champion in the history of the company, like longer than some of the guys in WWE. Well, longer than everybody that's ever had the titles. So I'm really blessed. So it's not like I've been sitting here stewing like, oh, I want to be a champion. Uh, I've had lots of great opportunities to connect with the fans and that kind of stuff. But I think from a Big Zo standpoint, what would the motivation be? So I channel it in that kind of way. But as me as a person, like personally, yeah, I'm just happy to be there. I'm happy to have this opportunity to do what I love. As far as like my profession and how that ties into it, honestly, wrestling is an outlet for me. Like I talk to my clients all the time about having coping outlets. So ironically, I wrestle for the same reason that I'm a therapist, which is to help people to feel. So as a therapist, people come to me because they're feeling anxious, depressed, sad, overwhelmed, angry, whatever. When people come to a wrestling show, they want to suspend disbelief. They want to come for 2 to 3 hours and not worry about all their job and the BS they have going on, all the other stresses. They want to be entertained. So when I can help them to, escapism, so now they can, if I'm the good guy, cheer for me and get behind me, or if I'm the bad guy, give them the reason to cheer for the good guy. But they just get to like escape from their stress and their existence, then I think that's a good thing. So being able to find that balance.
Would you would you be sort of fair to say of a statement that you're a true sort of one company man? Is that how you would sort of categorize yourself at this stage in your career? Like you focus all your attention and efforts to this particular spot where you are now, and you use OVW as that one drive, and that is your sole motivation, not to, like you said, people at different ages might want to push WWE, they might want to travel abroad, but for yourself and where you are in your life, OVW is the number one goal.
I'd say that's probably about 90% true. Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, when opportunities arise, then by all means, like I love going to I had opportunity to go to Wisconsin the other day, and wrestle there with GL GLCW. So that was really cool. Which they're kind of like a partnership of OVW. So some people call it OVW 2.0 or
Right.
OVW North or whatever. So I guess it's almost like a subsidiary of OVW in a way, Great Lakes Championship Wrestling. But I mean, there's other places that I do like to wrestle too. Like I have a buddy that owns a federation that, sometimes I might go wrestle there. And, you know, if a WWE starts calling or something like that, I'm not going to say I'll turn my nose up at it, but I'm not actively pursuing it because I know that realistically at 40, if I start at OVW, I'm sorry, if I start at WWE at 40 in NXT, number one, probably TMI, but it's probably going to be a pay cut. You know what I mean? Like from where I'm at, where I've been here for 7 years. I'm a supervisor. I'm tenured. And then I go to travel all around, go move to Florida, uproot my family, my mortgage, that I have going to take, like probably like I don't know, at least a 33% pay cut, um, to hopefully have the opportunity. Like, I think if this is 10 years ago, then by all means, yeah, maybe it'd be a WWE would be on the card. But now I'm like starting to think about retirement. So
I think it's really cool that so much self-awareness, and obviously I think the work that you're doing must be really fulfilling as well. It feels like one of those jobs that's kind of like a calling, like only certain people can do that kind of work. And I think I understand the idea of having both the balance, and obviously you use your platform to sort of reduce stigma around counseling and things like that. And the book, we haven't even talked about the book.
yeah.
That was something that came up while I was doing my research. So when actually in your journey did you write the book?
Okay. So during the pandemic,
Ah,
so March 27th, 2020, I was walking across the street during work. I was a team lead at the time, and I decided to get some chicken for the team. And I get hit by the car, or I got hit by a car. So it's kind of like, why did the chicken cross the road?
oh,
So
oh,
I had the chicken, and I'm crossing the road, and I get hit by a car. So and this is March 27th, so right at the height of the pandemic, like when the world had just shut down maybe a couple weeks earlier. So I had to go to the hospital, and that's the last place you want to go. I'll make this story shorter because I could really get into the weeds, but I didn't get really hurt real bad, and there wasn't a whole lot of wrestling happening for a couple months after that. My knees were messed up, my shoulder was messed up a little bit, but I'm on the mend. But when I was laying in the street, I got to thinking, man, thank God I didn't hit my head, because as long as my head is still working, my brain still works, then I can still make a living. Now I didn't know whether or not I'd still be able to wrestle, how bad my knees were messed up. Fast forward, spoiler alert, I'm wrestling still. But I got to thinking, man, if I would have splattered my brains on the pavement, then I wouldn't be able to share any more knowledge with people. So I decided at that moment, and then also my mom passed away now 10 years ago. She always wanted to write a book. So the sixth stage of grief is finding meaning. A lot of people don't know that, but I want to find meaning in the life of my mom by being able to honor her by doing the thing that she wasn't able to do, by writing a book. So during the pandemic, while the world was kind of shut down, I just start writing a book. I'd always wanted to, but I never really had a topic. So the topic ended up being mental health. Like, I realized while the world was shut down, that more and more people were accessing therapy and more people needed it, but there were still so many people that weren't coming to it. So I wrote a book to explain what is therapy, what is mental health, what are coping skills, how do you know when you need to come to therapy, what does it look like, what does the process look like, and just kind of trying to explain that. And I use a lot of cooking and food metaphors, and like cooking analogies, food metaphors and analogies to kind of destigmatize it, to demystify it, to make it really simple and accessible, as
man.
opposed to the big $15 words, as a doctor of social work. I just like to make things accessible and simple so everybody can understand it. So, and it's fun. It's funny. I use a lot of puns to explain the process too. So
I love
Is
that.
this book something that's like something that's like on Amazon? Is it accessible on a local basis? Or?
yeah, actually it's only available on Amazon, except for if you find me in the streets and I have a copy on me. So yeah. So it's Cooking Up Counseling, a recipe for peace in unsavory times. And my shoot name is Kawan Owens, so Dr. Kawan Owens, licensed clinical social worker.
We'll throw a link to that in the description
Yeah.
of the episode, just to make sure that people have access to that. Yeah, I think it's cool that you're so open, and I totally agree. By the way, I think when you speak about just making information accessible, I find a lot of work when I was at university, there was a whole thing around making things writing academically, and I felt like that just meant excluding people from what you're trying to tell them. And
Right. It's about trying to make yourself look and sound smarter than you probably actually are.
yeah, like, and
Yeah.
the idea should be that as many people understand you as possible. And yeah, I think it's cool that you're so open with all this stuff as well, honestly, because I feel like you're talking about a lot of things that people will consider their vulnerability, right? Like, this is the stuff that people struggle with. I guess it comes with the job. In fact, what really was to go way back, I'm sorry, I'm just interested, but what actually inspired you to get into that kind of work?
I don't know that there was like a specific origin story.
Right,
Like this
right.
thing happened and then I became a therapist. I think I just always like the idea of helping people always appealed to me. The idea of talking for a living and getting paid to talk to people and have conversations, it was like, man, I like helping people. I like talking. If I can make a living getting paid to do that, sounds cool. So I started off like, I want to be a psychologist because I didn't know any other kind of therapist that exists. I was like, oh, psychologist, that's a therapist. So I started off in undergrad and I was a psychology major till about halfway through my junior year. And then I had a professor, Pat McCutcheon, who just passed away about a month ago,
Wow.
but very instrumental in my journey. She said, you can do the same thing with the master's in social work that you need a doctorate in psychology to do, which I just wanted to help people. I was like, bet, say less. I'm gonna switch my major. So halfway through my junior year, I switched my major. It cost me an extra year on the front end, but saved me, 3 years on the back end. Then, of course, fast forward, a couple decades later, I ended up going back to school and get my doctorate anyways. But I didn't have to wait to practice therapy. I was a therapist, but I just got my doctorate in social work, just, I don't know, giggles and grins, I guess you could say. Like, it didn't give me a raise or promotion at work. Like, I'm already a supervisor. It's just kind of like, yeah,
Help.
you can call me Dr. Owens now, I guess.
Yeah, sure. It sounds good.
It's cool.
It
It's
sounds
cool on TikTok. They can call me Dr. Kwan on TikTok.
I'm really curious. This this interview in particular, and obviously we're getting to meet a lot of the OVW team, but there's a lot of topics and stuff that you've actually, I can relate to a lot of things that you're saying.
Awesome.
Your stage of career, age, and bits and bobs through your lifestyle. Um, so I'm curious, actually, from my own inquiry, in terms of you as a 40-year-old family man, busy professional wrestler, you're clearly highly motivated. Like, what keeps you ticking? What's the inspiration? What's next in wrestling for you? What makes you keep at it every day? Because I know just as much as you at this age, it hurts like hell. But and we all love it. But what is it particularly for you, and how are you going to carry that forth?
I guess it's my drug of choice, right? Like the dopamine that you get, the adrenaline that happens every time you come out the curtain and have people chanting your name and doing the thing. Like, I don't want to end up like Mickey Rourke and the wrestler and like doing it forever and ever and ever and ever. Like, I hope that when there's comes a time when I know when I'm not operating at the same level. But for now, I still feel relatively good. And like, honestly, like I said, wrestling is an outlet for me. So I can do the really difficult job of helping people with their trauma and dealing with their depression, their anxiety, come to work and leading a team, supervising people, um, in a lot of ways because wrestling. Like, I know that tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening, I get to go punch Eric Surge in the face, and that makes me feel good. So I don't have to punch anybody in the face here in my federal job because I get to go and do that, at within the confines of a wrestling arena. But my kids like it. I think when a lot of people are like, "Hey, we really look up to you," it's not even just like the fighting aspect, but a lot of people just kind of appreciate what I do, like being vulnerable and putting yourself out there. So sometimes it's kids, sometimes it's the parents of the kids, the grandparents. They're like, "Hey, I know you're supposed to be the bad guy, but come here, give me a hug. I know that that we really like you, and we've been following you for years," and like those connections. So I guess like there's nothing more valuable to me than those connections. So being able to make those connections and making a difference with people and inspiring people, motivating people, and honestly, um, even though I said it's not like being the champion is not like the end all be all, I did kind of have in the back of my head, what's a goal? And I was like, well, I definitely want to become OVW heavyweight champion at some point. Like, and I've become OVW United States champion. So I've kind of leapfrogged that goal and superseded that goal. But there's still that goal of having the actual OVW heavyweight title, even though this title is bigger championship. That one has more historical lineage, like different guys that have been to to WWE that have held that. And it's like, I can't leave my career without saying that I've held that title. So that's a goal of mine too. I'm not saying I'm going to hang up as soon as I get it, but I feel like that's something I have to do. So I'm going to keep doing it until that happens, at least.
amazing, amazing. We are running out of time. I do just want to ask though as well, before we wrap up, because we've covered a lot of ground today, a lot more than just wrestling. And if you had a final message to people watching, what would you want them to take from your story? What's the key thing if you were to impart one bit of knowledge to people? What would that be?
I don't sell yourself short. Like, if you have a goal, if you have a dream, if you're not dead, then pursue it, right? Like, so many people sell themselves short and they put their own, I guess, cap on things. They're like, "Oh, I'm too old to do that," or it's gonna take too long. It's like, too long for what? Too old for what? Like, why can't you do it? You know what I mean? Like, so I feel like if you're still alive and you're still ticking, like, you should live every day as though you're gonna live. I don't know. In some ways, I think that people should live like today's their last day. In other ways, I think they should live like forever. Like, always have a goal to give you a reason to get up the next day, but also don't like procrastinate and put things off as though it's never gonna happen. Like, so I'd say if you have a goal, go for it, man.
I love that. It's literally what you said about like the car crash moment. It shouldn't take moments like that, but it does in life, doesn't it? A moment where you just think, "Oh, wow, this could have been a moment. Like I've got to do something today," and I think that's
That's it.
something really powerful. So thank you very much for sharing that. It's been really cool. Appreciate you making time for us, and I think we're just scratching the surface of all this stuff. So maybe we do another. Maybe we jump on again sometime if you're willing to do that. But
Hey, I'm an open book, man. It ain't too hard with me.
no, I appreciate
I
that. So yeah,
appreciate
like
y'all's flexibility with the time too.
oh, no, no problem at all. We like I said, we'll put the, description for this book we'll put the, link for the, book in the description, and, yeah, thank you again. So, guys, thank you for checking out this episode, and, if you've enjoyed it, please do like, subscribe, leave a review, wherever you're checking us out, but we will be back in another 2 weeks with a new episode of OVW No Holds Barred. Until then, speak soon, take care, and have a good one. Bye.
It's time.